Hi all, Benny from East West coming at you with video 9 on the Python for Finance series just as we get started here. So we're in the Python codes folder and we're in the utilities section and we're just going to start a new project. So today we're basically going to brush over, just start to touch on lists and what they mean, what they are. So I'm going to go ahead and fill out some headings. So I've just gone and filled that out. We're just going to make some lists today. So what is a list? So we've touched on what a variable is. So a variable is, like I said, just like a keyword that we assign a value to. So, you know, I think the last video or so we made a variable called starting balance, 20,000. Now you don't have to have numbers in there. You can have letters or strings, so you can say the answer is yes, and like, oh, pardon me, sorry, if we're going to put the variable as a text, you've got to put commas or inverted commas around that. If you rerun that, then we can put in pardon me, answer is yes, and if we put in balance to 20,000. So these are just the ideas of a variable. So what a list is, in a very basic sense, is a variable that's got more than one value or word stored in it. So if we just clean this up, because we don't really need that, it was just a little demonstration for you. So let's start off here. Let's make a list. So the list we're going to make is, I'm just going to make a list of the stock codes for the FANG stocks. Okay, so we're making a list. So we'll call this list FANG equals. Now, when we want to put more than one code in there, we open up a square bracket, and then each element of the list, or each entry into the list, has got to be in its own commas. So I'll just go ahead and put in the stock codes for the FANG stocks, like so. And if we just run that cell, and then if we just call up the list FANG, it'll bring up the codes like this. So we can access various elements of this, or entries into this list, the same way that we did when we looked at how we accessed some of the information in a data frame. So we can just call up FANG, and then if we just want to call up the first entry, we put in 0. So it works the same sort of way, where the first entry is 0, and that will bring up Meta. Same thing again if we want to bring up the second, Amazon, and so on and so on. So what we can do from here is, when we download some data from Yahoo Finance into a data frame, rather than actually calling up the stock code, we could call up a list and then one of the entries within that list. So if we're doing that, we would just get up to this stage. Now, usually if we wanted to download the metadata, we would just type in, pardon me, we would type in meta. Okay, and then we'd put our start date. Let's just say start equals, just to keep it, 2022. Oh, pardon me. Whoop. So we'll just do start. We'll just do December of 2022, just so that there's not much data, so because we're not really worrying about it. So we would have our data frame downloaded. Now, what we could do also is, rather than put that in, we could just pass in FANG 0. Ooh. What's going on here? Pardon me, I've got an insert problem with my keyboard. Let me fix that. Now I'll fix my insert lock keys on my keyboard. Sorry about that. So we can pass in FANG and then just pass in 0, which means we would ask the program to download from Yahoo just Meta. Okay. Now we could, of course, also put in 0 through to 2. If we did that, what would happen is we would download 0 and 1. We would download metadata and Amazon. So if we just looked at that, you can see what it's done here now is it's downloaded the adjusted close for Amazon Meta, the close, the high, low, blah, 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 but it's done it for both and put them side by side. So that's a little bit of a pain. You wouldn't do it that way, but that was just a demonstration of how you can actually just, rather than passing a specific code, you can actually pass a list into here. And if I pass just FANG, it'd download all 5. So now, one little thing that I came across when I was first playing around with this, and it's obviously it's very easy when we've only got 5 stocks. But if you want to download, if you're looking to download every stock in the Russell, then you're dealing with a lot of entries, even the S&P 500, or here at home, when I was dealing with the ASX 200, when I was looking for codes to download, and we'll go over how you get a hold of the codes and how you get them into a list, because that's going to become important as you mass test ideas over all the different stocks. What you'll find sometimes is that with US stocks, they don't have anything prefixed to them, but if you're in a different country, usually Yahoo Finance will require something at the end. So in Australia, the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, that's the stock code, but it'll require .ax. For instance, if you're looking at Rolls-Royce for the FTSE, it's got to be .l. Okay, if you're looking at Deutsche Bank on the DAX, then you need DE. So you've got to put these codes in behind the stock code. So rather than having to type through and doing a massive amount of manual input, and this is just a little snippet of how you do it, plus it briefly introduces us to the ideas of a loop. So this is what we would do. I'm just going to put in create a new list for the FTSE. So here I've just made a FTSE list with AstraZeneca, Barclays, HSBC, Rolls-Royce and Vodafone. Now, if we try to basically just copy this, so if we just copy this and if we just paste it, if we just paste it, and now rather than having FANG there, if we just put in FTSE and then say we wanted to download AstraZeneca, we would put in 0 and close that off. And now if we tried to run this cell, oh, it worked. Pardon me. AZM was a bad example because there must be a US listing. There is no US listing for Barclays. When we try to download Barclays as this code, BARC, data not found, symbol may be delisted. So what we actually need to do is go through and change all these from as they are here currently to .l at the end of them to get the London Stock Exchange data. So as I said, we've got 5 codes here. It'd be very easy to go through and just go .l and then etc. etc. What if you've got 500 codes or 200 codes? So what we would do is, let's just put in a new heading here. We would add to the list. So if I created a new list, let's go FTSE stocks. Let's just create this list. And this is what we would type in. So as I said, this is a slight introduction to the idea of looping. So what we're going to say is we're going to type in this I plus .l. Okay. And then for I in FTSE. Actually, I changed my mind. Rather than do a new code, we're just going to change this FTSE, sorry, a new list. We're just going to change this FTSE list. So we're just going to type in I plus .l for I in FTSE. So what does that mean? So what that means is we're saying, basically, we're saying to the code for I, and remember I, just consider it I's iteration. So for I, we're saying, for this part, we're saying for each of these entries in the list FTSE that we've created. So for each of these, what I want you to do is to take this I, and then I want you to add at the end .l. Okay, so that's what we're saying. For each of these entries, per entry, just take the entry and then add to it .l. So if we run this cell and then we bring up our new list, we can see now, we've got a double L, hang on, pardon me. This is another little thing. So now we've only got one L, but of course the thing is now we've got FTSE. If we now, I'll show you what the problem was because I ran through this more than once. But initially you can just see how now that we've put in .l. So if we now take this again, okay, and we paste that in and just run this cell again, now it's downloaded it because the list has got .il appended to it. So the idea of appending is something that we'll cover as well. So very quickly, I'll just cut that. if I then just went back here, because now that the whole code knows that this is now the list, if I ran this again and then ran footsie again, now we've got LL. Why? Because it's already got an L, and we've asked it to add another L. If we do this again, it's triple L, and so on and so on. So if you sort of come to this problem, and sometimes you do, I end up doing this all the time, you're just going over the same thing. You just need to remember what we're talking about, like clearing the memory from a calculator. Just start again, and there, now we're back to where we need to be. Everything's cleared, and run again and re-download. We're back to the list as we want it. So that was just an example of lists, and we're going to use these. This will come up. So I just wanted to get you into the idea of what a list is as opposed to a data frame. But you'll see that we use lists and data frames, and we combine those together further down the track. And the other thing, of course, is to just think about when we loop, when we ask to go through something and make changes or check per entry what's going on. That we will cover a little bit more in the next video. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching. Bye.